Welcome to the Asian Supermarket. I'm your host Christina from America.
And I'm Carmen from Australia.
Welcome to episode 11 of ASM. This week we've got a mega interesting episode with our friend Robin, a Californian Cambodian who shares many aspects of his culture with us, as well as his wild stories about his relocation back to Cambodia.
So grab your favorite fruits as we chat with our guest in episode 11.
Hi everyone, welcome to episode 11 of Asian Supermarket. Today we have a special guest with us named Robin. Hi Robin.
This day, everybody. I'm Robin in Cambodia.
He was born in Long Beach, California to Cambodian parents, and after going on a humanitarian trip to Cambodia, he was inspired to move there, and now he's there doing work for the Princess of Cambodia, Jenna Norodom. Dana, why don't you let us know how you guys know each other?
So back in college, we were in a Cambodian club called Cow, and then afterwards we went on a humanitarian trip, so we got to know each other more through that. Robin, we like to start off with the icebreaker usually, so what's your favorite Cambodian dish?
My favorite Cambodian dish is tvako, which pretty much is a variant of Cambodian sausage specific to the region Battambang. So it's got a little bit of a tang to it. It's different from like your typical sausage because this one has a tang. It's got like a fermented, which is good.
One of the fun facts we wanted to speak about is that one of the world's largest religious monuments, Angkor Wat, was also added to the UNESCO Heritage List in 1992. And a personal fun fact is, back when I went to Cambodia, I had this addiction with coconuts. It's called dong, right?
Dong.
Yeah. And then its price is equivalent to water-ish, depending on the size. So if you guys go to Cambodia, I recommend getting coconuts every day.
So Robin, why don't you let us know more about your work? Because it's so interesting. You know, don't really get to hear many people who work with a princess. So yeah.
Let me start off with my parents. So my parents were initially born in Cambodia, and all the way up until the Khmer Rouge, the Pol Pot regime, that's when they got up and left to America. Well, they didn't really get up and go. They were more just the lucky ones to be able to become refugees. My entire lineage is all in Cambodia up until my parents' generation that went to America. Then I was born in Long Beach, California. I'm the fourth child out of six. Growing up in America as a Cambodian was a little, because my parents went through the regime, they were extremely scarred, extremely went through a painful experience. So they actually separated themselves from the whole Cambodian culture kind of thing. Like as I was growing up, they weren't like, you're Khmer, be proud. They were like, Khmer people hurt Khmer people. Our own people killed our own people. Growing up, learning Khmer wasn't really a thing within our household. Learning the language and the whole culture. So I grew up not knowing like, damn, what am I? Am I Japanese? Am I what Asian am I, right?
Can be anything you want.
Yeah. It went like that all the way up until about the end of high school, until I met one of my friends in this organization called Cambodian Awareness Organization of UC Irvine, my friend Frederick. So it's an extremely long story, but how that happened was I worked construction. My boss had some chickens. No, I worked in construction. My boss said, Robin, you should get some chickens. They lay eggs and they're awesome. And I was like, okay, I'll get some chickens, I guess. I got some chickens. My parents were pissed off at me that I got chickens and they threw away my chickens. And I got so sad that my chickens were gone. So I ran away from home. So I went to UC Irvine and I was like, bro, I need a place to stay because my chickens are gone and I'm sad. And then my friend was like, no problem. Chill with me, bro. And by the way, do you want to go to this organization called the Cambodian Awareness Organization? Because you're Cambodian, Robin. Why don't you learn about your roots? And I was like, okay. I'll check it out. And I'm from Cal State Long Beach.
Rep
Wow.
Rep it. And
wait, this is a different university, right? Just so I'm okay.
Totally
yeah.
different.
Sorry,
University.
I'm kind of
it's an hour away.
Okay.
So that gives some context to every week I would drive the 1 hour to go to this Cambodian Awareness Organization because I was just like, give me more of this Cambodian stuff. That was my first experience really into like, here's my culture. Because of that, because of the organization, they introduced me to this humanitarian trip where every year they raise money, and with that money, they take that money to Cambodia. They buy backpack supplies, anything school related for these kids who are under the age of 10. It's in the interest of promoting education because these kids literally, when you go to these schools, as Christina can probably tell you, these kids are like dirt. They have dirt all over them. They got no shoes. Some of them are really in like these schools are in like the village where the roads are like dirt and just as you're driving down it. Um, yeah. So that was my very first experience to Cambodia, and the crazy thing is like as I was growing up in Long Beach, California, a bunch of Cambodians are there, by the way. That's like the second mecca of the mecca for Cambodians because the weather's so good in Cambodia. It's just like in Cambodia. There's a thing within Long Beach Cambodians to be like, Cambodia is bad. Cambodia is a third world country. Why are you going there? Um,
Mm.
uh, Cambodia, this and that, political uprise, this and that. When you live in Long Beach and you're exposed to that so much, it actually like influenced me to be like, hmm, damn, when I go to Cambodia, it's gonna be like Uganda, third world country, government warfare, shit going on everywhere. But
No.
then I came here and I was like, hey, it's pretty nice here actually. There's people driving Lamborghinis and Rolls Royces. This was not in the textbooks.
Yeah.
There's literally people here who have Lamborghinis and Rolls Royces and Bugattis and super crazy cars. And the development here, so I came in 2017, I believe. And the development here is crazy. I was expecting like dirt roads and rice fields up in the city, but to be honest, it's like on par with LA kind of. Not really, but like some of the buildings here are like skyscrapers, and the quality of uh goods are good here. Like they got Dolce and Gabbana, they got uh Coach, they got all that stuff here. And like it's the real name brand stuff. It's not the knockoff
Yeah.
cheap stuff. Um, so so yeah, that was my first culture shock coming to Cambodia. And then um, it wasn't the first trip where I was like, I want to live here, because the first trip was literally like, damn, I'm just taking all this in.
Yeah.
I took it in for about 3 weeks, I believe, and then went back to USA. Well, another year passed by, and then the Cambodian Awareness Organization did one more humanitarian trip, I believe, and I joined that one as well. And I was in Cambodia. We finished our mission. We donated all the backpacks to Kapong Tom and Battambang, and I was like, I've got my plane ticket here to go back, but I just don't want to go back. I want to experience living in Cambodia. So I threw away the ticket and I had some money. I had some savings, right? So it's pretty much the just graduated, taking my vacation kind of trip. But then it kind of extended all the way up until now. So it started off with me just enjoying Cambodia, traveling around Cambodia.
Mhm.
And then it led to me going, okay, it's time to find a job if I actually want to live in Cambodia. So a little bit more background about myself. I've played piano since I was in middle school. So it's about 15 years now. And I was really interested in music. So I went to a music school here in Phnom Penh. And I was like, hey, what's up? It's me, a guy from America. And then the
Yeah.
director was super cool. He was like, hey, what's up, man? How about you come hang out here for free? We have a piano for you to play, because that's all I wanted to do. I was like, you have a piano I can just hit and sing to? And he's like, yeah, 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 yeah. And then over the course of like 2 weeks, he was like, hey, you come here a lot, Robin. Why don't you try becoming a teacher? We'll pay you. And I was like, okay. So so that happens. And then my very first student turns out to be Princess Jenna Norodom. just
Ah.
just on a whim, right? And this is before she became famous, and this is before she even had teeth. Like she had teeth, but like
She
her
was playing
front teeth, like
piano
yeah. But she
before
was
she
only
had
6 years
teeth.
old. She was
Oh,
only
wow.
6 years old at the
Yeah.
time. But she was very talented, very smart. And so I took her in as my student. And long story short, she didn't like piano.
Okay, fair enough.
Fair enough. So about one month into it, I was like, "Hey, I don't think piano is right for her." Mother of Jenna, Princess Jenna, and she was like, "I think you're right, Robin. Thank you, Robin. We'll be on our way now."
The mom is the queen, right? Or
No, so she's also a princess. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, so there's a lot of lineage within the princess royalty name. So like how Princess Jenna Nordum is related to the king is the king has a brother. The brother has uh has has a kid, and that kid had a kid, and that's Jenna. So Jenna's the granddaughter
Oh,
of the king's brother. That's the relationship there.
okay, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so after that happened, that happened, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go on my way now. And I kept exploring Cambodia. I got to meet um my mother's side of the family for the first time, so it took 24 years to do that. I've never actually
Wow.
called them on the phone, and through that, I actually got to revisit my grandma. So another crazy thing is, back when I was a kid, my grandma also came. My grandma was also in America with me, but when I was 7 years old, she passed away. She had a stroke, and then she had Alzheimer's, and then she flew to Cambodia with um with my uncle and passed away in Cambodia. So
Mhm.
I never got closure as a kid. I just knew she passed away. So it took a whole like 20 years for me to finally be able to like go to Cambodia, visit my grandmother's grave, and just be like, put my hand on my grandmother's grave
Mm.
and be like, it's been a long time, and it's
Yeah.
nice to finally come back and say hi to you. And then I've got my dad's side of the family, which was also interesting in Siem Reap, where Angkor Wat is. Um, they've got an alligator farm, literally alligators, crocodiles, like
Wow.
freaking like if I fell, so think of it like just a regular pool, right? And then they built a second level on top of the pool where you're walking over and looking down at the crocodiles. But if you fall down, you die. There's no, you're definitely dead. So it was interesting, just like
Wow. Can I
man
ask what they've
killer
what they're
size.
farming the alligators for?
Okay, so they can sell the eggs for, I believe it was like $15 an egg. But as of today's market price, apparently it dropped down to like $5 an egg. So it wasn't not as good of an investment as
Mm.
it used to be. Also, people eat alligator in Siem Reap. If you go to
Mhm.
Pub Street, which is like the place to be drinking and partying in Siem Reap, they actually sell alligator meat if you want to try like the hot pot version of Cambodia, and also eating just crocodile eggs. If you've ever done that, it's a very very interesting experience because the egg white is like jelly. It's like just it's
Wow.
unpleasant. It's an unpleasant
Oh,
eating
really?
experience, but very interesting eating experience. Yeah. After all of that um, happened, I went back to the city, and then I went on a cool trip to an island where the water was just beautiful. It took a 30-minute boat ride from one island, from the mainland to the island, right? And the water was just like as tropical as you could imagine. At nighttime, when you hit the water, there's that blue algae plankton that all those Instagram posts are all chasing after.
Wow.
And that was like one of the best moments of my life, right? But then as we're on the boat ride back, I get a message, and the message is saying, Robin, your grandma on your dad's side of the family just passed away. And then I was just like, 'cause I met her 2 times already. And
Mhm.
I was just like, fuck, how do I break this down to my dad? Because in our household growing up in Long Beach, we always had her picture and my grandma's picture, and that's
Mm.
about it. You don't see like any other relatives' pictures up there. You just see grandma and grandma.
Yeah.
And so I'm just thinking, fuck, how do I break this to my dad? The funeral happened after I bought my ticket, and it happened
Mhm.
3 days before my intended flight. So it just happened perfect at the perfect moment, right? Just enough time for me to be part of the ceremony, because in Cambodia the ceremony lasts for 3 days. It can last for all the way up to 7 days, but usually if you're in a rush, you can shorten it down to 3 days. So
Yeah.
I was within the perfect time frame for the whole ceremony. Within the ceremony, a chance for if you want to like make the passing for your grandma go easier, like as make her ascend to heaven kind of thing easier, you can choose some kids to become monks. So and what that means is like you become a monk for a certain period of time. So it was on my so one of my dad's brother's son became a monk, and then I also chose to become a monk at that time. So what happened was they shave your head, shave your eyebrows, shave all of your hair off. I
Yeah.
became a monk for a day. So
Wow.
kita, and then so they say it's pu mangay, so 1 day of a monk. And that was extremely interesting, just learning the whole funeral process. And because I've never been part of a Cambodian funeral, so this was my first taste of it. And then also just like seeing how the whole procedure goes, where the food involved, how how like the whole entire family comes together. And it's also a very interesting aspect where in America it's completely sad, right? A funeral is just like
Yeah.
where you're wearing black and crying and looking over the casket and going crying, crying, crying. But in Cambodia, it's more like there is a sad aspect. There's the initial sad part, and then there's the, oh wow, all of my family's here, and there's also good food here. So let's
Yeah.
enjoy that and let's share our memories. So there's times where it's like upbeat, and there's times where it's like extremely sad, because they also bring over these sort of priests, and these priests are taught these very beautiful, hauntingly beautiful songs. I would say almost like scripture. It's like they're called smote, and when they sing, it almost sounds like a flute. So
Wow.
yeah, and they only sing it at funerals. So every time you hear it, you get this very chilly vibe. It's like, oh, ghosts are around me kind of thing. Yeah. And I always look forward now to funerals because I get to hear those monks sing,
Yeah.
those monks and nuns sing.
Mm.
Yeah. So anyways, that happens. And then my flight intended for America happens. And what uh what we usually do in Cambodia is if you really want to like have your grandma's spirit with you, you take after you cremate her, you look for the bones. That was a can I let me go back to that real quick. So when you do the whole funeral process, there is a voodoo aspect
Mhm.
Wow.
to the funeral where they cremate you, and then the whole family digs through like the bones, dig through the ashes and finds the bones, and then sometimes you'll find a tooth, right? So, and then sometimes you'll find the heart, because the literally like the whole heart, you'll find the whole heart in there. And I was just like, what the fuck? Why is there the whole heart still there? And they were like, oh, because it's so hard to burn, so hard to burn, and it's full of blood, so it doesn't burn that fast. But then me not knowing that, I was like, holy shit, there's some spirit in that heart. That heart is so strong. um, but yeah,
Yeah.
after you're done cremating, the priest takes the monk takes like all the ashes and lines it up into like a human shape, even gives you like a coconut
Wow.
face mask, and then they do like a whole pray, and then yeah, and then you get ascended kind of thing. And there's also a moment where I as a monk were to just sit right after the cremation, sit for 20 minutes not doing anything, and closed my eyes along with my cousin. So we just sat there and we were like, close your eyes. If grandma comes to you, let us know. Okay. So I was like, 20 minutes passed and I'm like, hey, nothing happened.
Yeah.
And then they were like, okay, that's good. That means grandma went, that means grandma went peacefully. Good job, Robin. I was like, okay. I did my job.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. For that whole period, I can't eat either, all the way up until the next day. And also during that
Oh.
night when I slept, they were like, Robin, you're going to have, let us know if you have dreams of grandma.
Oh.
So, because you're supposed to have dreams, right? And so I'm sleeping in the room with my cousin. And then the very next day, the whole family runs up to us and like, did you see anything? And we were like, nope. Me and my cousin were like, nope. So they were
Yeah.
like, ah, okay.
Wait, so
But
you're
then
meant to have dreams, is that right?
um
What does it symbolize? Like when you're meant to dream of your grandma, or
you're meant to, it's like literally if your grandma had any last things to say, she would say it to you.
okay, yeah.
But I guess what the monk usually says is, okay, if you saw nothing, that means she had nothing to say and she went peacefully on her way, kind of thing.
Yeah. Wow. It sounds really
So,
similar to in Singapore, our funerals like
mm,
are quite similar as well for the Chinese
oh,
community in Singapore. Like it goes for 3 to 7 days as well.
mm,
And then families come, like the whole family, like extended family, everyone comes to pay their respects. And then we have like the monks and stuff
yeah.
who do come and do the chanting. So yeah, it's really cool. But for us, like the
Okay.
dream part, I think for us is if you do dream about them, it means they haven't left peacefully. So it's a good thing if you don't dream about them. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
very interesting.
And then I went to another trip to Siem Reap, kept being a piano teacher here and there, but then also my health started to decline. And I wasn't really too sure why. My health declined to a point where my hair was falling out, bumps all over my head. I literally went bald over here, and it was just pleasant. It was just extremely unpleasant. And then one day I got a little bite on my right leg, and that bite doubled in size every day. So I thought it was just a little mosquito bite that would disappear, right? But it went from the size of my pinky and it doubled from there. So it went from here. And by the time it was this size, I couldn't walk anymore. It was so painful to put my leg in a vertical position that I just chose not to walk. So every time I would drop my leg, I would feel I would feel the pulse like doof, doof, and it would expand like a balloon almost. And it came to a point where I had to go to the hospital. At that moment, I was like low on my funds. I was like I was like reaching into my savings at that point. I was like, hmm. But also, I always kept enough money, just enough money to have a plane ticket back home. So if I ever dropped to below 1,500, I was just like, okay, that's instant buy a ticket moment and go back home, right? So it comes to this moment where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to the hospital and see what's up. I go to the hospital and they're like, what is that? What is that? What is that? And I'm like, I don't know. You tell me.
That's why I'm
And
here.
yeah. And they were like, uh, it's 3 o'clock. Why don't you come tomorrow? I was like, come tomorrow? My leg. I can't even walk. They're like, yeah, but we're closed. And I was like, fuck. So that happens. I go home. I'm limping like this, like a motherfucker. And yeah, next day came. It increased in size again, right? And then I went. All they could do was look at it and circle my leg, circle around the infection, and said, okay, I'm gonna give you some antibiotics. Eat it, and if it increases beyond where we drew the circle, let me know. Okay. So I take the antibiotics. I went home, another hellish trip back home. I go back to the hospital and I say, okay, what are my options? He's like, okay, Robin, if we want to operate on your leg, we're going to have to put anesthesia right into your spine and your whole bottom half is going to be numb. My only intention in Cambodia was just to get my shit and come back home. I had no intention to stay in Cambodia. I was just like, screw
Yeah.
Cambodia. That shit almost killed me. I'm staying in America, but I have all my shit there still because I couldn't carry all my luggage with me. So this trip was just get your shit, come back home. And So I got on the plane, and that was the first time I got on the plane. And I was like, I actually don't want to go. I actually don't want to go back to Cambodia. I'm like, I'm scarred. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm scared to go back and hop on the plane and go to the same apartment where I got the infection and all that. And the worst part is when I go to the apartment, I realized the staff didn't even go into my apartment once. Pay up front. I'm like, I'm gonna be gone for 3 months because I have a leg infection.
Yeah.
Goodbye. Right. Please help me look after my shit. I come back and the whole fucking house is like like rats got in and like fucked up the whole place and like there's rat shit everywhere and like there's like rat nests everywhere and I was just like
Oh my God.
and like I still have like a bit of infection in my leg and I'm just like no I don't want this infection to re-flare up and
Yeah.
like the first day I come back I cry but on the way back to Phnom Penh my friend is like hey actually Robin you remember Jenna right you remember Jenna uh let's just visit her because her mom invited us to go eat at her restaurant and then the mother of Jenna is like Robin Jenna is becoming pretty famous right now. She had a very hit song. So one of her songs, like, was an instant hit. It's called Dong Chan. It's about the moon. And at that point, she's only like 6.5, but
Wow.
millions and millions of view, worldwide, no, countrywide recognition. And then she's like, Robin, Jenna's getting really famous. And we don't have anybody to represent the YouTube and the Facebook, and we don't really know how to do all that. Uh, so So, Robin, are you possibly free to do that work? And then at that moment, it clicked in my head. I was like, okay. At that moment, I'm also broke. I have no money, right? My only intention was to go back home. Why? Because I had no money and the place I was staying at sucked.
Yeah.
So it clicked in my head, okay. If you give me a place to stay, food to eat, transportation covered, yada, 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 I can help you out. I can I can help you become famous, right?
Yeah.
Because my background is media. My background is uh, creating videos, making them entertaining, and putting them out to the public, right? Making it known. And so I looked at Jenna and I was like, I can make you famous, Jenna. You've got what it takes. So long story short, I take up the offer. She agrees to the offer, and as of today, Jenna is at over 1 million followers on Facebook, over 500,000 on YouTube, and then her other channel has like over 300,000 on YouTube. Her Instagram has a bunch. She was famous on TikTok, and yeah.
You mainly just do that and something else, or you just mainly do this now?
So I did that, and then like also some freelance work. So whenever somebody needs some camera work done or editing work done, I do that. And then also I'm focusing on the whole Robin in Cambodia thing. So there's a lot of interest um, within Cambodia because I'm kind of like a black sheep, I guess. Because like I look, I'm Cambodian, but the moment I open my mouth, people are like, look at him, he's trying to speak our language. So within the community here in Cambodia, they're really interested in me. Within the community back in America, France, Netherlands, I have so many fans all over the world. They're just like, you speak like my son, and I love it because because the way I speak is pai lam, which is like like literally I
Yeah.
talk like a 5 year old because I'm learning the language still.
And do you plan on
Wow.
staying in Cambodia for a long time, or you're still kind of like, you know?
Don't know if I can share this, but you're gonna see pretty soon in my social medias a lot of reveal.
Then was there
Wow.
anything you can adapt to when you moved to Cambodia?
The weather is always hot. The food I got used to. Like literally, I would get mud butt every other week. The whole toilet system here is actually better because we got butt blasters. I don't know if it's TMI, but I don't use toilet paper anymore. Partying here a night will only cost you like $20 max. I
Hmm.
mean, a beer is $1.
Dang.
Going out into the city takes like $2 or $3. You know, like an Uber, a tuk tuk ride, very affordable. So you don't have to own a car here in order to go and get far. Tuk tuk rides I love, very affordable. What I don't like though is if I wanted to own a car, let's say so how much would a Toyota Corolla 2003 cost, right? In America, maybe 1,000, 2,000. In Cambodia, it's 10,000. Like the average salary in
My
Cambodia
God.
is $200 to $300 a month, average salary. So the price of everything in Cambodia is low, but in terms of land and cars, you got to be super rich to own
Dang.
those. And in Cambodia, we call the super rich, they have a title, they call it Ok Nha. And for the girls, it's called Lok Chen Tiêu.
How are the social media differences? Since you worked in both East and West,
Mhm.
were there any big differences or not really practices?
Extremely, extremely different. Everybody in Cambodia uses Facebook. Everybody. And like they use it and they're so generous with their likes and comments. Like in America, we're just like, like scrolling through the newsfeed, like,
Do you have like different kind of strategies or approaches that you have to like, like the content you share?
cool thing about my videos is I always have English subtitles or I'm speaking
Yeah.
English. So it's very duolingual. Um, but for the most part, I speak Khmer because it's easier for me to translate from. If I'm speaking Khmer, I can easily translate the words into English. But if I speak English, it's extremely hard for me to write in Khmer because I'm using Google Translate, and all the comments I get are always like, "I don't understand your Google Translate, Robin." So I've adapted a way to just speak Khmer and then translate to English.
Is there a lot of difference between like the Cambodia community in that have gone over to the States compared to the Cambodia, like people who are in Cambodia?
Kind of like a joke, but in Long Beach, California, all the Cambodians are like drinking Hennessy. But then in Cambodia, nobody can afford Hennessy. So everybody's just drinking their can of beer, right? But I was expecting to come over here and be like, everybody's got Hennessy, but when a bottle of Hennessy is like half of your half of your check, half of your month's check, nobody's drinking Hennessy here. One big thing, another reason why my parents didn't like me associating with Cambodians. In Long Beach, California, a lot of the Cambodians were gangsters, but my parents made it extremely protective, even though we were surrounded by gangsters, like everywhere around us, gangster life. They made it extremely clear that we were not gangsters. They made it extremely clear that we weren't going to be gangsters. My mom made it clear, tucked in my shirt every day when I went to school, made my hair like this every day, buttons up, no sagging. But there's no gangsters here in Cambodia, to be honest. There's teenagers. We call them bike sloy. They're just like teenagers who like to ride their motorcycles a little carelessly.
How did your parents feel about you going back to Cambodia, like initially and then staying there?
And my dad was like, "You lost your fucking mind." But my mom was like, "Follow your heart." My mom and dad are yin and yang.
And
So
then
it's
did your
always like,
parents go back often?
dad went back 20 years ago, and then ever since then he's never gone back. My mom has never gone back since, and she to this day promises never to go back. She says, even
Hmm.
if you're a millionaire and you buy me a mansion, Robin, I will never go back to Cambodia because she has PTSD. Nothing you can do, nothing can convince her.
When I went to Cambodia as well, I went to see the killing field, but
Mm.
they were showing trees to like, do killings. There was bones everywhere in the ground. And I was like,
Yeah,
wow, I can't believe that, no wonder. That's why I asked the question, like, how did they feel about you going back? Because obviously,
yeah.
they left for a really deeply scarring reasons.
That's another reason why I
Yeah.
really want to do Robin in Cambodia. So just sharing
Hmm.
my experience is something that nobody's doing here in Cambodia.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's tourists who come here for like 1 month and they're like, why Cambodia? Top 10 reasons why Cambodia is awesome, right?
Yeah.
But then there's nobody like actually living here, learning the Khmer culture, talking to the
Mm.
Khmer people, sharing what everyday life here is like in Cambodia, so that the people in America, the people who fled during the Khmer regime, can go, hey,
Travel locations for locals that you would recommend?
so Ratanakari. So everybody hears about Mandalkari, but
Uh-huh.
there's one place called Ratanakari, and if you check my Facebook, you'll see a couple of vlogs. Extremely beautiful waterfalls everywhere. Like literally, drive 1 minute here, here's a waterfall. 5 minutes there, even more beautiful waterfall. And another place is island. It's called Koh Takiu. Not as famous as like Koh Rong Salam.
Uh-huh.
So Koh Rong Salam is the place where everybody knows about. But there's one more place called Koh Takiu
Mm.
that was the very isolated, no Wi-Fi, no internet, no cellular signal. water clear as can be.
How is the dating, romance, marriage lifestyle in Cambodia versus
Mm-mm.
um, American Cambodian?
Dating here is, I mean, it's it's what it is. What it is. Like you can go to the bar, the club, and get
Uh-huh.
your thing on.
Like the old-fashioned way, like people don't use apps or like meeting in Korea, they do like meetings, setups. So then like
Uh,
I don't know, do, are apps commonly used or is it just bars?
Here we have Tinder as well. We
Uh-huh.
have Tinder as well. It's pretty common to use Tinder here. I think that's the only app, I believe, that's popular here. I think TikTok's becoming a big one now.
What? They're like, oh, this person looks good. Let me send them a DM.
Yeah.
Then how's like
Other
the marriage, customs?
The marriage procedure is very intricate. It's usually the last wedding I went to was for my cousin. It was a 2-day wedding. Pretty much all the family comes. You have two procedures where it's like one where you're doing the whole cut the hair, little cut. It's like a symbolic cut the hair, tie a string around the hand. Everybody gives the money, kind of thing. Some Cambodians go all out, spend millions on weddings here in Cambodia. They have wedding halls that look like the White House. They spend
Wow.
so much on flowers and
Hmm.
yeah. For typical weddings, the hardest process is I think the paperwork. Yeah, I'm going through some of
You
that
would
shit
know.
right now. We're currently in lockdown,
Yeah.
so 8 more days and they'll apparently open up lockdown or just reanalyze the lockdown.
Yeah. Is
So
everything just shut now, like all the restaurants and bars and stuff, shops?
kind of. It's like so the cool thing about Cambodia is you live in America, it's like you live in your house, that's your house. But in
Yeah.
Cambodia, your house is where you work. You can sell food in your house. There's no
Yeah.
permits you need or anything.
Uh-huh.
So people on the app were just like, you can register on the app and be like, I sell almonds now. I sell almonds now. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Whoever wants to buy almonds from me can buy almonds. And then the delivery driver comes to your house, picks up the almonds, and ships it to them. So you can pretty much sell whatever you want still, and it's all based on if the government is saying we allowed we allow delivery drivers to cross the border into other cities now.
But
That's
yeah,
what
thank
it's
you so
telling.
much for coming on the show. It was so nice
Thank
talking to you
you.
and hearing everything about, your life in Cambodia and how you got over there. And
Mm.
Stay tuned, everybody, for episode 12 as we have a special guest who was born in America but moved to Shanghai to become a teacher as she shares her experiences within the education system, within the East and Western cultures of different lifestyles to adapt to. So, yeah, thank you again, Robin, for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.